Sometimes there's life circumstances that just kind of shake you up. You know, many of you guys know my story. I'm here because I had a car accident when I was 19 years old. And it knocked some sense into my young man's head and said, hey, life can be incredible. You just don't know how to do it, kid. You're gonna have to learn to live. You're gonna have to learn to love. You're gonna have to learn to matter. And I had to learn how to do that. And even if you've heard that story before, you probably never heard me say this part, which is because I speak all the time and I've shared that story literally thousands and thousands of times, I've had thousands and thousands of people come up to me after events. And one of the sad but tragic and real things that happens sometimes is people come up and they say, Brendon, I hear your car accident story and you changed your life. I had a car accident. My car accident was worse than yours. Or I had a car accident. It was the same as yours. Or I had a car accident and I should have had a realization, but they all say the same thing. I had this situation and it didn't change me. Why? People ask me that all the time in interviews. Why do you think that you had a car accident that changed your life, or you've had these brain injuries, or you've had these traumas, and you shifted from it, and other people have that same experience, or even more of a wake-up call, but they don't wake up? Why? Why is it some people have the same situation and it's a wake-up call to them, and it shifts them and changes, and it actually causes a transformation? Sometimes called post-traumatic growth, And other people, same situation, nothing changes. Well, they've studied this in psychology, and they've found a lot of interesting things that you would say, of course. Well, for some people it mattered, it meant something. For some people, there was this going on in their life. For some people, they were in this age. Some people, they were, in this, this mental or emotional state or stage. And unfortunately, psychology usually is not in charge of long-term development, right? Most psychology studies are very short-term. And even the long-term ones aren't measuring for what makes the transformation. They're more conceptual and they're more survey-driven. But here's what you would find if you actually coach people and you work with people over and over and over again. You know what you find? The difference maker isn't the event, how transformative or traumatic or even the meaning at the event. What changes for people is if after the cue, right? The cue is the triggering event, the situation. After that, if after that, they make personal development, or what we say, self-improvement, a way of life, the changes happen. The transformation is sustained or manifested. If we don't make self-improvement a way of life, that means we are consciously being intentional about our day. We are evaluating ourselves. We're being aware of how we're experiencing life. We're being aware of our thoughts, our feelings, emotions. We're directing those things and taking responsibility for those things a little bit better. We're entering situations and social situations in ways that are a little more intentional or a little bit more graceful, or what we'll talk about today as purposeful.
Need motivation?
Watch the top 10 of Believe Nation because I love it.
Hey, it's Carmichael, and I make these videos because you are probably the most ambitious person in your circle, but you know you're capable of more, and you get that push by surrounding yourself with the best. So today, let's learn from one of the best, Brendon Burchard, and my take on his top 10 rules of success. Enjoy. Rule number 2, be of service.
You want to feel potential? You want to feel purpose? It comes from acts of service, acts of compassion, kindness, generosity with the people around you. Are you providing great service as a husband, a wife, a role model, a team leader? Service as in servant leadership. Service as in generosity. Service as in doing a good job with heart and soul. That's what we mean by service. My short answer is I hope that a lot of what you do in life feels like you're doing it from a generous, soulful place. A generous, soulful place. If you're a mom and you are generous and soulful with your kids, good job. If you're a leader of a big company and a mom and you're doing it from a generous and a soulful place, good job. If you're a volunteer and you do it from a generous and soulful place, good job. If you're trying to lead a team and you've had the guts to ask, how do I do this well? You've probably read about servant leadership and Robert Greenleaf's work in servant leadership. You go, oh, okay. The servant kind of leads from the back. The servant is the guide by the side, not the person pushing with the stick. The servant has heart and soul because they have compassion and empathy for others. And boy, do I think we need to develop this, because we've gone from a service mindset and one part of last century to a selfie, narcissistic culture that has forgot others and literally passes people struggling by on the road like they're pieces of trash. And that's where we're at as a society. And it's going to be the volunteers and the leaders and the servant leaders who are going to change this world. And I hope that's you. And I give you a round of applause if you are that person who's generous and showing up for people and giving your best to your kids and to your team and your fellow members. Very few people do that. And that you do that, I honor you and I thank you for that. It's much, much needed. It's more needed now than any time I've ever seen. This moment that we're experiencing in life, the reason a lot of people are feeling so lacking in purpose is because there's so much negativity in the environment. There's so much narcissism in the environment. We're, completely bombarded and scrolling by all these acts of selfie culture and narcissism, and so few demonstrations of beauty, of humanity, of genuine moments where someone takes a beat out of their day to help somebody or to be with somebody. And when you're willing to do that, part of purpose is sensing a mission larger than yourself.
Rule number 3, deepen your relationships.
I don't think there's a more easy access to a greater sense of purposeful being than being more intentional in the relationships we have. But that often happens because one of two things. Either one, we suddenly realize that the purpose of life is manifested through our relationships. The purpose of life is manifested through our relationships. You've heard all the growth day teachers talk about the research about how it's your relationships that actually leads to the highest levels of not only positive well-being, not only life satisfaction, but longevity. The biggest study of the longest living people on the planet happens to be completely showing that the highest correlation to life length and positive life length, meaning you lived a good life and you lived a long life, came from people who had one or two deep, meaningful relationships. And they found purpose in that. They found purpose in their children, or they found purpose with their wife or their spouse or their partner or their family. There was purpose there. And sometimes purpose in the social realm can really fill us up in the self realm. So for those of you who are struggling with yourself, know that maybe deepen some of those relationships around you. Reminder to all of you, if you're struggling in any relationships in your life, that is, as a Growth Day Pro member, when you click the Learn section and you watch past events under the live events section, you'll be able to see an entire month's training that you can sort by on relationships. And I think that's a really important call out here. We've got, I taught relationships for 2 hours there. Jenna Kutcher did, Koya Webb did, Anthony Trucks did, all 8 of our teachers or so taught an hour on how they have learned about relationships from research or their coaching or teaching practice and what they do in their own life to develop those relationships.
Rule number 4, find your mission.
Part of purpose is sensing a mission larger than yourself. Most people confuse that with a large achievement. But what it was meant to be back in the day in these conversations was it meant you can see beyond yourself. I can see the suffering of others and want to be of service to them. I can see the suffering of others and want to be of service to them. Where that means your angry child, or that means the neighbor who's struggling, or your friend who just lost her husband. It means I can see beyond myself, my immediate selfish, impulsive needs, and I can be with someone. I can sit with someone. I can listen to somebody. I can empathize with somebody. Too often we think of service as like donation. You know, did I donate to this cause? And by the way, please donate to whatever cause that you get behind. But there's different ways to provide service outside of just money. And the biggest part of humanity is learning to sit with people and be with them in their times of need, to let them know you see them and you hear them and you're curious about their story and you want good for them in their lives. Not your way, not imposing your values, not pushing the answer, but literally just honoring them as a human being.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there. Rule number 5, seek out purposeful people.
Our social realm is incredibly purposeful. Most importantly is this, and you all know this as strivers here in Growth Day, but I think this is so critical. You've got to be around purposeful people. You got to be around purposeful people. If you feel like the people around you aren't as purposeful as they should, send them to growthday.com. You know, it's like maybe they need a little training. A lot of people need training on this topic. Just like my friend I told you about, the woman I was coaching, who she'd never been trained to ask the question, what would make her feel fulfilled? Most people have never been trained on purpose either. But getting around, striving, giving, generous, kind, compassionate, high-performing people will completely make you feel different about life. I think about my friendships and the people in my life. They got a lot of purpose. And it doesn't mean they have this end game. It means they're living purposeful lives with great intention and appreciation and presence. So they're awesome to be around. Do you have 5 people who are awesome to be around in your life? Like awesome and purposeful. If not, time to meet them.
Rule number 6, have clarity.
When people have clarity about their future and clarity about their purpose, it tends to come in different categories here. Okay, so let me give you some of those categories. First is yourself. I know that sounds like no duh, Brendon, but this is yourself in terms of your identity. This is yourself in terms of who you are becoming. And this is yourself in terms of your self-worth. Okay, I'll cover those 3 elements here in a second. Self in regards to your identity. Who am I? Self in terms of who you are becoming. Who do I believe I am meant to become, or do I desire to become? And self in terms of self-worth. Am I worthy? These questions make you either feel connected as a purposeful being, or they make you feel terrible. And so let's explore them. Your identity. I always ask this in my seminars. If you've never done this work with me, it's from one of my other books called The Charge. And the charge being like the amp, like the battery pack, like the subtitle was Activating the 10 Human Drives That Make You Feel Alive. The book is called The Charge. And one of the things I started asking people to do in high performance work was to share with me, to generate and share with me, what are the 3 words that would define the best of who you are today? Like if you had to describe yourself, like let's say you went on speed dating and you sat down across from someone and the question was, okay, share the 3 best parts of you and with using one word, describe that now. It's kind of like that, right? It's like, what's the 3, like if I had to describe the best of who I am in 3 words, what would my 3 words be? What are your 3 words? Like, what are your 3 words that is the best of who you are? Or if you struggle with that, the 3 words that would describe the best of who you want to be. I want to make sure that you have your 3 words. And I want your 3 words on a board, or I want the 3 words on your mirror, or I want the 3 words next to your computer. And every day you look at those 3 words and go, today I'm going to be this. At midday, am I being this? At the end of the day, was I that? We need to develop a purposeful sense of being and remind ourselves of it.
Rule number 7, cultivate change.
Personal growth and purpose is something to be cultivated on a very regular basis. Otherwise, you lose touch with it. Just like most people say, I lost my motivation. I go, you didn't lose your motivation. You lost the practice of paying attention to the things that matter to you and using your mind to rev you up for those things. That's all. You started going through the motions, and so you lost the motivation. You can still do the same thing, but instead of just going through it unconsciously, bring conscious intention. By bringing purposeful being to a thing, it changes. Well, as you learn to make being a purposeful being happen on a more regular basis, I promise you can shift. And that's the hopeful message for today. I know sometimes you watch something like this, you're not in a good mood. You don't feel good. There's been a travesty. Something's going on in the world you don't like. And your day is just kind of like all over the place. But that's why we're here. It's like constantly doing the work. I would love for you to all type this in either your journal or the chat or the comments right now. I love constantly doing the work. Actually, write it down. I love constantly doing work. You have to teach yourself. I love constantly doing the work. I get in an argument with my wife. I'm like, ooh, I love constantly doing the work. Like you have to keep generating the ambition and the engagement and enjoyment of doing the personal development work. You know, I walk out of a conflict or an argument with somebody and I have to go recenter myself. I'm like, okay, Brendon, chance to learn, buddy. What do you got to learn? How can next time be better? How do I really want to show up? How can I repair this? How can we improve the situation next time? How could I approach it differently? What can I watch for next time to make it better? Let me try. You got this next time, Brendon. Be graceful for today. You got this next time. A little more intention. Okay, here we go. Just over and over and over. Giving yourself the grace to learn, to enter the next situation more intentionally. That's the stuff of purpose.
Rule number 8, volunteer.
Time to go out and volunteer. My very favorite way to change someone's life is to turn them into a volunteer. I don't care what they volunteer for, but go volunteer. It will change everything. Because who does volunteering? Purposeful humans, you know? So it's my favorite way to improve your social life. If you're not around purposeful people, volunteer. You'll meet more purposeful people, more intentional people, more present people, more appreciative people. But also, if you are struggling in any of your relationships, please watch the relationship trainings or courses in Growth Day, because they've found that just one negative or hurtful relationship in your life can dramatically decrease your sense of purpose in life, your overall sense of purpose by one person. And we know that to be true in your career, right? You have one bad boss, they can ruin the whole company for you. Well, that's true in our personal lives too. One negative, hurtful person consistently in your life tends to decrease your sense of purpose in life by 3 points out of 10. So meaning, let's say on a scale of 0 to 10, you feel life is purposeful and you're really connected to it. 10, you feel totally purposeful, totally connected. 0, you have none. Let's say you're at level 7. Having one negative or hurtful person recurring in your life takes that 7 down to a 4. That's why that saying, don't suffer fools, is a good one. If you got somebody who's negative or hurtful, it's time to do the relationship work to either improve that situation with that person, help them get assistance or help or coaching, or exit that situation. If you can't do any of those, then you got to find a tribe or a community over here that you build up that meets those needs. And I think that's important because sometimes people say, well, Brendon, my mother, she's terrible and I hate having her around. I'm like, okay, well, you can't necessarily replace your mama. Maybe you can limit time there, but sometimes people can't. They're caregiving, as an example. I'm like, okay, well then outside that house, we've got to develop the relationships that provide you with that sense where it's lacking there in that particular relationship. And so I think that's really, really important.
Rule number 9, be bold.
I always joke that one time I was about to kind of go pitch an idea to somebody who I really admired. And right before I went in the meeting, my phone went off and I had set an alarm in my phone. This is before Growth Day. I used to just set alarms in my phone. Now I just use Growth Day for reminders. But I said it and it went off. And one of my words at the time was bold. And the truth was, I don't think I was that bold, but I was trying to become more bold. And I know it was in me and I know it was the best of me, but it took a lot of courage to summon like boldness, like take a big action or ask for a big thing. It happened the reminder went off right before I went in this meeting. And in the meeting, people started talking about this big new idea. And usually I would just kind of sit there and, listen and take notes. And I heard them and I heard the enthusiasm and I loved what they were talking about. And I literally put my hand on the table and it kind of made a thump. And I said, hey, y'all, I'd love to quarterback that. What do you think? That's all I said. I'd love to quarterback that. What do you think? Everybody kind of looked around the table. One person said, you'd like to do that? I said, I would. They said, go for it. And I got like a dream project. If I hadn't got that reminder to be bold right before the meeting, I don't think I would have ever done that. And that became a very critical changing moment in my life in terms of my career. And so I share that with you because there's a sense of purpose that comes into our life when we are being who we know we should be at our best levels. But just like you need a fulfillment habit, you need a reminder habit about yourself. Because who gets down on yourself sometimes? Sometimes the words you say about yourself are terrible. And you're on repeat on terrible words. I want you to have positive words, and I want you to be able to repeat about those. It might take some time. I didn't even believe my 3 words for the first year I did this activity. But then I had the blessing one time of sitting down with Oprah on her porch in Maui. And it was like, I just taught her and her team about change management. And we were doing this big program together about your next bold move. And I had taught about these 3 words. And so I asked Oprah's 3 words, and I'll keep that private to her. But what was amazing is when she said them, I heard them, I'm like, yep, and yep. They were all totally true descriptions of who she was because she lived in integrity with that intention of who she wanted to be. It was just like so obvious. And so the beauty there is as you develop yourself, as you choose your 3 words as an example, you choose your identity and you live into those words on a more consistent basis, you'll be more in touch with your natural and best being.
And rule number 10, the last one before some very special bonus clips, is get more rest.
If you read High Performance Habits or you go through that course in your app, you will see that there's a whole chapter on that high performers generate energy. How do they generate energy? They protect their energy. They take pit stops. They rest well. They recover intentionally. They don't overwhelm themselves by setting boundaries. They care for meditation, exercise, diet, and sleep. See, we know that spirit is beyond body. You all know, like, you know what I'm saying there? Like, there's a mind-body connection, but there's also a spirit, something else connection. But the truth is, if you have a vibrant spirit and it's housed in a 55-gallon drum of toxins, we got a problem, right? You take the most beautiful, imaginable butterfly and you put it over here and drop it in oil. We got a problem. Who knows what I'm talking about here? We have such positive, unlimited, expansive, gorgeous, godly souls and spirits. But we drop it in a container that we keep poisoning. And then we wonder what's happening. Why don't I feel the spirit? Why don't I feel God? Why don't I feel better? Because you need a nap, babe. Because you've been eating, popcorn and wine for 14 nights. Because you haven't walked around. And I know I'm preaching to the choir. Growth Day, remember, you guys are more healthy than the average cats by leaps and bounds. You all understand exactly what I'm talking about. You are striving for wellness. You are striving for energy. But I'm just going to require and remind you, if you don't feel your spirit alive, could you get some rest? And sometimes this is also related to mental fatigue. Time to take a break. A few more breaks throughout the day. A few more mental breaks throughout the day. Like after I get done with this, I'm going to go for a walk. I have to reset. Mental breaks so that your spirit can be creative and thoughtful and expressive through the containers in which you got, through the form in which we experience. And listen, I know when you're unhealthy, that's a hard ask. And so that's why I also very much am emphasizing meditation or prayer to get our mind and our thoughts beyond our immediate feelings or impulses, needs, or bodily sensations, and projecting, experiencing, or connecting beyond the body. And sometimes meditation or prayer are the most expansive and consistent ways to be able to do that. And so I'll encourage those of you, meditation and prayer, or meditation or prayer, just choose one or the other. I think it can completely change your life, reinvigorate your spirit, and make you feel more connected. We're going to dive deep into how do you gain some more emotional mastery in your life so you can handle those difficult times when you get frustrated, when you get down, we get beat up and chewed out and spit out by the world. What are you going to do to be your best self? That is the topic of today's conversation. That emotional masteries part, that emotional intelligence we hear so much about, that ability to handle the difficulties and challenges of life with grace or aplomb or being centered in the midst of all this chaos and turmoil. How do you be your best? That's the topic of today. We're talking about motivation at a deeper level maybe you haven't had with me before. The utmost, most important area of emotional mastery is mastering motivation. Now, when I say emotional mastery, you're like, wait, isn't motivation just a topic, an area? I'm like, no, motivation is an emotion, right? A motivation is a emotion that you feel a drive, a sense of hunger, a sense of want, and a sense of desire to make something happen. I believe motivation is one of the most important things we have to master in our total emotional sort of toolkit. right? Because if you can emotionally feel motivated every day, almost everything else can fall in line, right? If you're emotionally motivated to be a better mom, be a better caregiver, be a better parent, be a better lover, be a better entrepreneur, be a better business person, be a better contributor to the greater world. When there's a motivation pulling you forward, out of bed each day, into the office, into real life to be your best, then everything changes. When you lose motivation, you and I both know the loss of motivation is the first gate to suffering. You lose motivation. Now you don't feel like doing anything. You don't feel like doing anything, you don't work out. You don't feel like working out, you don't feel like doing anything. You don't feel like doing anything, you don't want to do your goals. Don't feel like doing your goals, feel unfulfilled. Feel unfulfilled, feel unsatisfied. Feel unsatisfied, feel like life is meaningless. It is a slippery slope when you lose motivation. But the issue is no one has motivation 24/7 all the time. Motivation is an emotion you learn to cultivate by using your mind, your body, your greater consciousness to ensure that you feel that pull of purpose, that you feel that energy inside that says, I want to create, I want to contribute, I want to be my best self, I want to connect with people. And so motivation is something we're going to have to generate on a consistent basis. I know many of you are at HPA and you hear me say, all the time, you have to learn to bring the joy because the power plant doesn't have energy. It generates energy. Motivation is something the motivation guy. I have the best-selling book of the entire century with motivation in the title. It's called The Motivation Manifesto, if you haven't read it. And the Motivation Manifesto is like, if anything is imbued in that book, it is like this ferocity and this fierceness and this tension to living our best lives, but it has to be like generated. Because even though I'm the motivation guy, there's plenty of days I wake up and I'm like, blah. I don't feel like it. There's plenty of days, there's plenty of moments where just like you, I'm just like, I'd rather be lazy and do nothing right now. And that's okay. That's part of homeostasis. That's part of our human body to want to power down, to relax, to chill out. But too much of that can lead to an unfulfilling life. So we must learn to generate the emotions of drive, desire, go-gettedness, whatever you want to call motivation. And so it's something that we have to learn to stoke. Motivation is an emotion we feel by either luck or by purposeful, conscious design. I just choose to design it into my day every single day. Motivation is driven by certain things. You have a spark, you have something that sustains it, and you have something that grows it. Okay? The spark of motivation, which is how I anchor into being motivated each day, is ambition. All motivation begins with the desire or hunger and ambition for more, whether that's more depth or more connection or more contribution or more abundance or more wealth or more love. Like we just want more of something. And that says, I want to go get that. Like we see a fancier car, it's better than our car, I want to go get that. We see like a deeper love of relationship between two people, I say, I want that in my own life. Sometimes it's a visual cue. Something we see makes us want something, right? Not too far from here, there's a beach that I strolled on vacation, I don't know, a couple years ago. And I said, I want to live here. And it was a motivation. It was a cue. I saw something, desired it, wanted it, went after it. Like, so sometimes it's a visual, it's a cue out in the world that says, I want more of that thing. And ambition can be visually cued. For some people, if you just wake up, I mean, think about it. You wake up, you grab your phone, you're like, and all of a sudden you don't have any motivation. Instead, you look through all this stuff and all it did is make you feel like you're not enough, or it distracted you, or it upset you, or it created, anger or anxiousness. You got to be careful how you're using cues to start your day. I use cues to start my day motivated. And those cues to start my day motivated are things like I literally wake up and I'll wake up and I'll think of things that I'm grateful for and that I want to give in life. I'll wake up and I'll think about someone I want to do something nice for or surprise today. I'll think of something I can be excited about today. I'll, as soon as possible, in the morning, revisit my ambitions list, my goals list. I'll look at them. I'll not wander through the day looking at social media and then, oh, I guess it's time to work and look at my goals. It's like my goals, in the first few minutes of the day, I'm revisiting them. And what I'm doing is when I'm looking at my goals or my agenda or my schedule, I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, okay, why do I want this? What would life be like this? How could I go get it? What should I do today to make that happen? And that motivates me. That's my list of goals, my list of ambitions, the things that can excite me. In other words, it's very intrinsic goals. It's intrinsic rewards that I'm after. I'm like, if I go do that, I will feel better. If I could have this, I'd be happier, right? It's not that I can't be happy with now, but I want to pull. Like if I can have that future pull, that's going to motivate me to go do stuff. Right? I have to literally generate that in my mind. And so when I have that connection in the morning, then my takeaway for you is connect with your ambitions every morning, very first thing in the morning. Somehow part of your morning routine, connect with your ambitions. Look at them. Why do you want them? What would you get from that? How would you feel from that? What would that generate? Why would life be more meaningful? Really connect with that ambition every single morning, and you'll start to notice you feel better. Because remember, if you were at HPA, if you ever attended our event or our seminar, you also know this reality, that motivation wanes with attention. Meaning, if we don't give our ambitions, our goals, a lot of attention, the motivation just goes away. Because motivation is either fueled by our attention or by momentum, right? It either takes reflection or action to generate serious, sustained motivation. Either reflection or action. Because ultimately, from the reflection, that gives us clarity, and clarity can give us confidence. Or action can give us momentum. And when we have momentum, motivation is way easier to cultivate, generate, and sustain, obviously. So these are really important concepts. Every morning, get very close to your goals. Ambitiously. What are those things that you want, desire, need, and would enjoy, and what do you need to go to get it? That's the intrinsic type of things, the things we'll feel good about, that drive satisfaction, fulfillment, meaning, excitement in us. But I also have my extrinsic, meaning my external cues or goals or rewards that also I revisit. So for me, example, when I always tell you, wake up each day and at some point say, who needs me on my A game? For me, every morning, I re-anchor down into my relationships. I think about, okay, if I don't show up today and do a good job, then my wife and I have a lower quality of life. Then I can't support my mom. Then I can't support my team. Then all these people who count on me every day for motivation or count on me for leadership or count on me for support, they don't get that from me. And I tap into that reality that if I don't show up for somebody today, then you know what? By the end of the night, I'll feel worse about myself, but also it will impact other people. Because you cannot have real, high-powered mental motivation without a connection to other people. We are social animals, so we have to think about, okay, what should I do? How can I contribute in a way that serves other people? So where that internal one is about self and satisfaction and fulfillment and meaning personally, that's tapping into our own passions, desires, wants, and hungers. That external one is ultimately about service, about giving or taking care of or being the caretaker of other people. And you cannot just keep starting your day. I guess I'll get some coffee and read the news and see what's on social media or hop into the car and listen to trash talk radio or turn on the TV and hope to find motivation later in the day. Like you want to kick off the day with motivation. Like get already in the morning, immediately in a good state of mind. When I'm in a great state of mind, it's like, bam, the day goes. And you know what? If you start the morning in the right frame of mind, motivated, driven, because you're connected to what drives you and what will serve other people, then when you start like running out of gas at noon, 1, 2, or 3, it's easier to like re-spark that flame than to fuel that flame than to start a new fire, right? Because some people just keep waiting. They don't even think about, I guess I should be motivated until they've lost it. I want you to start the morning with it and sustain it throughout the day by revisiting it. Remember, the secret to all of motivation is revisiting those whys. It's revisiting that ambition that you have for your life, for more, for others, for contribution. That's everything, right? That's everything. And if you get away from that too many days, too many weeks, too many months, I'm just here to tell you, you're really going to struggle. So I hope that helps. Every morning, everybody, every single morning, I really want you to connect with that. Okay, what am I motivated? What am I driven by? And that's going to really, I can't explain how much that's going to help you. You will feel it and you will know it if you will do it every morning. Okay? Motivation starts in the morning, but it's also sustained by that morning frame of mind. So that's really key. That's the first idea behind motivation. Connect with your ambitions first thing every single day. Give attention to that every single day. Here's something I don't often talk about, but it's important for me because it's very easy for me to be really effective in the mornings. And then that afternoon, 2, 3 o'clock, and I can just be like, man, I want to go outside, take a walk, come back, turn on some Netflix, eat some carbs. You know, that can be my afternoon if I'm not careful. So here's what I do. I have a checkpoint in the mid-afternoon to recognize, reward, appreciate anything that I have done today. Anything that I have done today. And that midpoint checkpoint, for me on my phone, I just have an alarm. Mine tends to go off around 2:30 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It just flashes to me and it says, what's been great today? What's been great today? And so that will cue me, all right, it's time to visit. What's been great today? So I'll just think about something I've done. It could be like, I answered 10 emails today that I've been avoiding. Good job. It can be as simple as, I made that one call, I said I was going to call, did it. I shot that content, created that thing, whatever. Some type of, like, listen, motivation is often driven by recognition. So recognize what you have done so far in the day, early afternoon. Then what I do, in order to keep myself motivated even more, because I've set in my mind that I want to be a person who's excellence driven, what I will do is I say, okay, here's what's great so far. And then I ask just a simple question. How do I complete this day with excellence? Just a simple touch point in the afternoon. How do I complete this day with excellence? So I will look at the rest of the day, whether that's 2 hours more, 4 hours more, 5 hours more, 6 hours more, whatever it's going to be for me. And I go, okay, how do I think through the rest of this day with real excellence? And when I can connect with that, I'm telling you, it's just so part of me, and it really makes me want to serve. So please think about having a mid-afternoon connection point to keep yourself motivated. You'll feel a whole different quality of life come in. I promise it's a different experience for people, because most people, they're just running and gunning through the day. They don't realize or understand or accept how challenging it is to lose motivation. And so many people, they've gone weeks without being motivated. They're going through the motions, but there's no energy. There's no emotional pull towards something better. And because they're lacking that emotional pull, what ends up happening? They dog it. They don't contribute as much. They react and sort of create, and all of a sudden a couple of weeks later, they're like, I don't know why I'm so unfulfilled. Well, no duh, you're so unfulfilled because you haven't been tapping into that emotion of motivation. When we lack motivation, it is a slippery slope to suffering. So please recognize that you must cultivate more motivation. What else can you do? Well, I'll tell you, it's like ambition, attention to those ambitions, effort towards those things. I think all of that is really, really, really clear. But I also really believe that a lot of motivation is simply lost because of fatigue. So let's say you're doing all those things, but you're wiped out. You're tired. Like, a lot of motivation really rests on how you feel physically. If you feel lethargic, you feel tired, you have the flu, it's harder to be more motivated. You can still do it by doing what I'm talking about. Re-cue yourself, reconnect with those things. But health-wise, it's really critical for you to say, okay, if I want to be motivated long term, I need to feel greater levels of mobility and energy in my body. So if you ever hung out around me, I'm constantly bouncing and moving and breathing. And if you've been with me at HPA, you see some of these practices, this breath work that I do, that I'm activating and opening up my body so that my body says, let's go, versus, right? So my body's not like, oh, I ate this terrible thing. Instead, my body says, I feel refueled. I feel ready to go. Let's go. So I manage my sleep, my diet, my health in ways that support my mental clarity and energy. And I know that, like, it sounds, sometimes people think motivation is just a mental game. I'm like, yes, but your mind and your body are connected. If your body is lethargic, so is your mind, right? That brain-body connection is real, y'all. And I know you know that. You've been sick, you've been tired, there's times when you've been out of shape, you feel terrible. So I'm here to encourage you, as I always do. If every single month in High Performance, I have to cheer you on to get in better health, to prioritize your health, to sleep good, to eat well, to move. If I have to do that every single month, I will do that. I will be your champion. I will cheer you on. I want you in excellent health this year. So please hear me cheer that on every single month, because I just know I get you in better health. I get you in better mental health. We get you in better mental health, it's easier to sustain that fire and that drive, that purpose, that motivation. That thing will bring you satisfaction, joy, and meaning. I know you guys get this, but I want to fire you up today. Like, this is something you must fire up on your own. This will be fleeting. Of course it's fleeting if you never look at it. I tell people all the time, no wonder you're not motivated. You haven't thought about what motivates you in 3 days. Just think about that. No wonder you're not motivated. You haven't thought about what motivates you in 3 days. Every morning, I'm a deep dive in what's going to motivate me. I get excited about it. I look at it, I'm like, okay, let's go. If I didn't do that, I need coffee. You want to be more disciplined, you're going to have to delegate more. You want to be more disciplined to what really matters for you, you're going to ask for assistance, for help. You're going to have to build the team. You're going to have to socially engage people to support your focus. It's just real. Like, every writer I know who's become a major writer has assistants, meaning they get somebody, their spouse, their partner, their agent, a personal assistant. Somebody is helping with the part of their life so they can focus on that thing, right? It's hard to be a disciplined writer if you're doing everything under the sun. You need time to be able to write, which means there's some things you can't handle by yourself. And you're going to have to delegate that. And if you're like, well, Brendon, I don't have anyone to delegate to, then I'm like, then stop saying yes to everything under the sun. Stop putting more and more on your plate when you can't handle what you already got, babe. We got to go, no. If I want to be disciplined, I got to choose a few things. Say no to the rest. Delegate the rest. And do what is here. You don't lack discipline, you're taking on too much. You don't lack discipline. You're taking on too much, or you don't have a schedule, or you don't know your outcome.
You got to see yourself in scenes in your life that don't currently exist. And what I mean by that is you got to visualize specific scenes that you would love to manifest in your life in the future. Many of you guys know I'm from Montana, right? I'm from this tiny Irish mining town that was economically depressed for a century by the time I got there. And my parents, raising us 4 kids, I literally don't know how they made it. I don't know how they supported us, and we really, really struggled. But somehow, I always could visualize things for myself. And I remember thinking one time when I got to college, I was like, I would love one day to live on a beach. And I would love to get up in the morning, go walk on the beach, swim a little bit in the ocean, have a nice breakfast, sit down with my journal, and then go about the day. I could see myself talking with people and new cultures and traveling. I could see myself being somebody who was a person of influence in some way or another. And I had no idea how all that was going to manifest, but I did not fear to dream, or when the visions came in, I didn't stop them and say, well, that's stupid because I'm just a kid from a poor town. I did not know that one day I could live on my dream beach. That was not the point. It was that I saw the scenes and I allowed to dream about them. You have a lot of visions, and you have a lot of dreams that you have where you just go, well, that's stupid, or I don't like that, or what would they think, or who am I to do that? And I'm here to tell you, explore those visions. Maybe you were given those visions, and those visions were a gift to you that you're supposed to manifest. And so what I'd love for you to do is think out 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, and just try to imagine scenes in your life. Because what most people do is they don't see scenes in their life, they just write down to-do lists and goals. And so every day it's about a to-do list, and they're trying to just be more effective and productive each week, but they're not seeing the bigger picture. So even though they're getting their to-do list done, they got a lot of goals, they're not excited. They're not enthusiastic. They don't have that vision pulling them forward. And so see the scenes that you might have in the future with your family. You know, see the scenes that you would have in your personal lifestyle, like how do you live, what do you do, where do you go? See the scenes of yourself performing or doing your work or your career. See the scenes of yourself happy and fit and healthy, and explore those. And I mean, every day. Like, visualization isn't something you do once in a while on a birthday or when it's New Year's. It's like every day. So you guys know I wake up every morning and I stretch for about 15 or 20 minutes if I don't do my morning workout. Then I read some motivation or inspiration for 20 minutes. Then I sit down with my high performance planner, I write down my day, and then I push away from having written down that, and now I just start seeing the scenes of the day. How can I do them with joy and excellence? I start visualizing a bigger picture and seeing just what comes in about my future. I'm consistently engaged in future thinking, future envisioning. And it's not like everything has come true, but I'll show you, the scene that we're in right here, from Montana to this scene, I envisioned 20 years ago. Think about that. 20 years ago, I was like, I'm gonna live on a beach one day. When I lived in Montana in the mountains, as far away as possible, I'm telling you, more is possible than you actually know right now.
One unique thing that I do is I find passages from books that I really like. Sometimes it's spiritual text, sometimes it's just something that really inspires me, and I read it out loud. And then after I read it out loud, I give kind of declarations, like self-talk to myself, almost like spiritual self-talk, like, I am grateful today for the positive attitude that I have that's going to allow me to approach my work with enthusiasm. Thank you, God, for an open, enthusiastic mind willing to serve today. I am excited about the things I get to do today because other people would dream of having my career and I get to do it. Thank you, God, for this opportunity to serve today. And I'll say these things over and over myself. It sounds silly and maybe like affirmational, but the reality is it gets my mind programmed to be thankful and to be in charge. Like, I immediately, by the morning, by speaking it out, I've taken control of my self-talk for the day. So later on, when overwhelmed self-talk, oh my God, comes in, I'm able to command it and go, hey, Brendon, take a breath, buddy. It's not that big of a deal. Just figure out what's the next right action of integrity and take that step right now. You got this. By speaking to myself every morning in positive ways, I'm more able or more skilled to speak to myself when it really matters. That's your daily declaration. Some people pray to get command of themselves or meditate and say things to themselves as a mantra. It's just learning to control your self-talk in your mind so that when the time is important, you can really do it. If you have the imposter syndrome and it's firing off and you don't feel like you belong or you feel like you're faking it and you don't deserve it or you're not worthy, well then job number one is stop faking it. Start asking, how can you do what you're doing in a way that you feel like is authentic, real, and adding real value the way that you would do it? Stop trying to do it the way everyone else is doing, because that's what faking it ultimately is. It's like you're just conforming and you're copying and you're doing what other people like what they're doing, and no wonder you feel like crap. Because if you show up every day and you live like a copy, you're never gonna feel that vibrancy comes from personal freedom, that comes from personal authenticity, that comes from knowing like this day is mine. Because if you live each day as another person, you never get that gift of this day's mine. I got it. This is real for me. And so of course you feel like a fake and a phony because you're showing up running everybody else's playbook, trying to fit into everybody else's thing. And I'm here to tell you, listen, I know I'm being a little hard sometimes in my videos, but I'm here to I do that because I'm cheering you on. I know that no matter who you are and where you're watching this or when you're listening to this, I know this about you. You've got like a bottomless level of potential. Like you have the ability to figure things out and live life on your terms and add a level of value into the world that I can't do, that anybody else you follow, like, watch, they can't do because they're not you. They haven't lived uniquely in your shoes. They haven't studied what you study or observed what you have observed or dealt with everything that you've dealt with or had the same exact aspirations and dreams. You know, there's 7 billion people on the planet. We're all unique. And so you've got to say, okay, if I feel like an imposter here, what would my truth be in this space? What would, like, if I stepped away and I just, like, what would be real for me to do? Like, your job one is to stop faking it, stop conforming, stop copying, and say, how would I do this and add a unique value that I'm passionate about? And that helps immediately break some of that imposter syndrome. The last 5 days, were you really trying to be congruent with the best of who you are? Meaning, you know the best of who you are, you know your values. You woke up every day and you're like, I'm being congruent with the best of who I am. Or were you just going through the motions of the day? Were you just reacting throughout the day? Were you actually comparing yourself to other people and letting it get you down? Were you aware of what makes you unique and living into that uniqueness, living into your values and attempting consistently and conscientiously to be the best of who you are? Or were you going through the motions this last week? What I found with high performers is they're more consistently testing their congruence against the standard of their best self, against the standard of what we call their highest self. And it's easy not to do that, especially when you're good, especially when you're talented, especially when things are going well. You can just get up and go through the day and do a good job. But what happens over a series of weeks is one day you don't feel like you're really on your path when you're just going through the motions. One day you wake up and you're kind of like, man, I feel like I'm in a funk, and you don't even know why you're in a funk. You don't know why, like, things don't pop for you. You don't feel like there's momentum in your life. You want to talk about real misery in your life? Be out of congruence, right? If you're a person whose identity says, I am a healthy, positive, caring, goal-oriented person, and you just know that's who you are, but then you're not congruent with that, that's where misery comes in, right? If you identify yourself like the congruence, like the best of who you are, you know that you're a healthy person, but for 5 nights in a row you got drunk, 5 nights in a row you ate crappy food, 5 days in a row you ate too much, you know at the end of the week that does affect your psyche. And why does this matter? Because when you don't have that belief that I am being congruent, or I feel like I am trying to be congruent with the best of who I am, then self-hate comes in. Then that negative sort of framing of everything, I'm not good, I'm terrible, all that stuff comes in. And it's not because, listen, attempting to be congruent with the best of who you are does not necessarily mean every day you were the absolute best of who you are and everything was perfect and you were totally congruent. Listen to the phrasing here. I am attempting to live in congruence with the best of who I can be. I'm trying. It is an active, thoughtful, disciplined approach. It's not like I had a great week, Brendon. It's not about did you have a great week? Because listen, a lot of high performers who I've met, they did have a great week. Their peers are like, oh my God, she's crushing it. Oh my gosh, I can't believe she can manage all those kids so well. I can't believe that they're running the business. So people see you and they're impressed by your achievement. They're impressed by the external reality of your success. And you can have a lot of momentum in your life. But if psychologically, even if it's unconscious, that you know you're not truly living in accordance with the best of who you can be, if psychologically you know you're incongruent with the best of who you can be, it starts like grating at you. And over a period of time, what this does is like, think about it, it's like when you're not congruent, you're just kind of grating at your confidence unconsciously. You might not even know it. It's just like every day I wasn't my best. Every day I didn't try to do something and show who I am. Every day I wasn't authentic, every day. And suddenly over a period of time,
that lack of congruence just bores a hole right in your confidence, and you don't even know why. You just wake up one day not feeling yourself. And then it becomes like this big challenge because maybe you haven't had training like this on congruence, and now it feels like this big, existential dilemma. Oh my God, something's wrong with the universe, something's wrong with me. And the reality is, you just weren't trying often enough to be congruent with the best of who you could be. If you have that imposter syndrome, stop worrying about whether you belong. I always tell millennials, especially a lot of folks who I get to coach at that age, successful entrepreneurs and startup founders in Silicon Valley especially, I tell them, hey, listen, stop asking whether or not you belong and start asking whether or not you're being of service. Part of the imposter syndrome comes from the selfie syndrome. Just thinking about myself. Am I right? Do I really fit in? Am I good enough? Am I worthy enough? And it's I worry. It's from this selfie generation where we're all taking pictures of ourselves and thinking about how we portray ourselves all the time. And how do I portray myself? Does it fit in with everything else? And because it doesn't, I don't feel like I belong. Part of it's stop asking if you belong. Start asking if you're being of absolute service every day. Because if you feel like you're being absolute service every day, you're not going to worry whether you fit in as much. You're going to worry whether you're getting the job done, right? You're going to worry whether or not you're actually contributing value. Because I think one part of the imposter syndrome is that people don't feel like they're adding value. And if they're really honest, they know they're not. And because they're not adding value, they feel like, gosh, this isn't right for me, or I'm faking it. And the fact is, they are. Most people, when they've become burned out, it didn't happen immediately. It happened bit by bit by bit. I talked with my coaches this morning about that. It's like when someone's in burnout, don't think it was one big project that tipped them over the edge. It was little decisions, bit by bit by bit by bit by bit, where they gave away their time, they gave away their freedom, they overcommitted, they didn't say yes, they didn't say no, they didn't sort of lay out the turf, they didn't set their boundaries, and over a period of time, they burned out. The problem, which I think you all know, is that if you're a high performer, you can survive on burnout for a long time. A lot of burnouts, they're operating at a high level of efficiency. I mean, they're burned out, but they can go 6-7 months at that. And they don't take the time to step back and recharge throughout the day, not once in a while on a vacation, throughout the day. They're not using transitions to recharge like we talk about in the book. They're not using those moments to reset, recharge, go at it again. And they don't do that because they believe they're invincible. They can't see all these decisions adding up to exhaustion, adding up to burnout, adding up to running out. Always looking out a few months is part of excellence, isn't it? Otherwise, you can deliver excellence once and then you crash and burn. You have to play the long game. Now, I know it's yeah, I know that. But listen, if you don't have the momentum you want in your life right now, you haven't been playing the long game. If you've been too stressed or too burned out, or you've overcommitted yourself, you're not playing the long game. If your health sucks, not playing the long game. If you're wrecking relationships, not playing the long game. If you don't have a vibrant, amazing community of peers around you, supporting your dream, cheering you on, not playing the long game. Because playing the long game does not just take what shows up, it architects the future. Oh, write it down. Playing the long game doesn't take what just shows up, it's architecting the future. And I think a lot of people live mediocre versus excellent lives because they weren't playing the long game. They weren't thinking okay, 3 years out, how do I scale? 3 years out, how do I stand out? 3 years out, how do I have success unparalleled in this industry? Because and I both know, many of you are here because you're in transition and something new is coming along and you're trying something new. You got a new hobby, a new way to make money, a new way to serve. And sometimes in that transition, you go into survival mode. Survival mode is not the same as the excellence mentality, is it? Right? Survival mode is, let me take what's here, let me do the bare minimum to survive, versus think, strategically and play the long game. I think those who learn to endure hardship, struggle, challenge, difficulty, pain, grief, vulnerability, failure, regret, that's one side of that coin. If you learn to do that, but you also don't, on the other side, learn to allow joy, fulfillment, satisfaction, a sense of, now hold on.
I have to stop you. Allow, is that the word you want to commit to? You said bring.
I'm going to build.
Okay.
I'm building. You have to first allow it, because what most people do is, if on the other side of the coin, it's super etched in, what happens is, even when that impulse comes up to, I like this, oh no, I'm not supposed to like it. So you have a lot of people who are extremely talented at the top levels, who they do endure the pain, and they really like the pain, and they will allow that all the day long. They'll allow that now, because they'll tell their brain, this is what's expected. But they also don't let themselves feel good when feeling good is there. This is a real big problem. I mean, if you study like psychoses, a lot of people who really struggle with addictions, eating disorders are super common, who even when they feel that sense of self-love or self-acceptance, oh, I'm not supposed to feel that. No, you really, there is an element to personal development where you have to allow the good feelings and not push them away because it's like, oh, I don't deserve to feel that. Because a huge part of the world is telling themselves, I don't yet deserve to feel happy. Even though happiness comes up, I shouldn't feel that yet. I'm gonna keep striving. It's not until I get the next 2 million, then I'll let myself feel happy, even though they had that good Monday. And so you have a lot of people who are striving in difficulty, who also have not taught themselves the emotional side of what is called the most important movement in the history of the world in psychology, called positive psychology, kicked off by Marty Seligman, a good friend of mine, Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. Without that work of saying, no, we also have to allow ourselves and teach ourselves to flourish, feel satisfaction, feel joy. So I'm 100% with you. And I'm like, the rule is, that's one side of the coin. And the other rule is, make sure you teach yourself to generate the positive emotions. Because what happens is, if you don't teach yourself to generate the positive emotions as well, then what ends up happening is you burn out, or you become a cliche of the person who had it all and never felt fulfilled.
I think the challenge that you have when you're good is that you're good.
Yeah.
So
you're like, I'm doing pretty good already.
Yeah, it's easy. The better you get, the more expertise development you get, the easier it is to show up and go through the motions.
Yeah, you don't have to prepare as much. You don't have to practice as much. You just you get results.
Whatever you're going to do is good enough.
Yeah.
But what happens with high performance, it eats at them because they know they got more in the tank. Mm-hmm. And they're like, you know what, that was good, but I could have got another. And it's not that they're dissatisfied. We take on that myth in this book. High performers are not dissatisfied. So people who say never be satisfied, they got to look at why they're saying that, because it's not true, because high performers are satisfied. They're striving satisfied. Doesn't mean they're not striving for the next big thing, want to become better, but they're happy. Mm-hmm. High performers are happier than all of their peers. I mean, by significant, almost double digits. So it's really significant. But I think for me, I need to constantly be reminding myself, like, okay, what is the reason you need to perform really well right now? And I need to be more consistent about that question. So I set up triggers in my life to do that. From every time I stand in line, I have a line trigger, I have door triggers, I have phone triggers.
Smart.
So when I stand in line, I always say, what level am I right now in terms of my presence and energy? Scale 1 to 10. 1, I suck, I'm dead, I'm not even alive, not even feeling grateful. 10, I'm like, I'm vibrant, I'm joyous, here I am. And I rate myself consistently on that, and it just retouches me, like the need. I want to feel it's necessary to be grateful. I want to feel it's necessary to be great. I want to feel it's necessary to do my best, but you don't get that without reminders. So you got to set up alarms or triggers or some, note cards around that, whatever it is it takes for you to have that. But I know for me, Ray's, after the research, I didn't get how, I mean, you're talking from every athlete to every high CEO this is what they did. And I didn't find this. You'll see all the questions I asked them in the book. I really had to dial in their psyche And when we found that, I was like, is that a thing? That they'd really, but they all do. And so it inspired me to another level. I'm like, I'm going to raise my necessity, and I'm going to practice everything in the book to get that up a little higher.
We all have to have those things in our business or our brands or the things that we're being productive towards that push us, that challenge us. If you don't have 3 or 4 of those each year that are your form of business or productivity marathons, build them back in. Build in challenging expressions for yourself each year. Build them in. We all need our own marathon each year, whether that's a true running marathon or for me, this is it for me. And I got 8 of these a year that I build in that make me sharp. I don't need to do them. The better use of my time would just be doing more videos on the internets, more social media. But this pushes me. This demands excellence from me. Maybe not the most popular answer. I go to the fear. How are you going to look silly or stupid? You're not going to ask questions. And you're going to end up in the wrong place. And people are like, why didn't you just ask? Like, follow the fear. If the fear says, I'm scared, I'm going to look stupid by asking questions, like, well, let's flip that. Because if you don't ask questions, you're definitely going to look stupid. You're definitely going to end up in the wrong place. Yeah. You're definitely, you're manifesting the very thing you fear by not doing the thing that you're scared and being, you don't want to be vulnerable about. Yeah. Having people in my life who I can, when I'm on the road for X amount of time, or I'm dealing with a super hard client, or we're rolling out a leadership program to a Fortune 50 company, or, I'm doing my first, major deal with Oprah Winfrey Network, and I don't know what to do. I am so incredibly fast of asking people what to do. I'm also incredibly fast in sharing how I feel about it. Being like, I feel really awkward about this. I'm unsure. I'm having a lot of self-doubt. How would you deal with it? Like, I'm somebody who expresses his emotions all the time. My frigging tagline is bring the joy. Like, everybody knows that. Why? Because I want to make sure people know we're going to create this energy. Because emotion is not something you have, it is something you generate. Emotion can be an impulse, but feelings is our interpretations of those impulses over a period of time. And I said, I want to feel vibrancy, joy, love, connection, satisfaction, fulfillment in my life. So I'm going to learn to generate those emotions. How do you learn to generate the emotions? You read psychology. How do you learn to generate the emotions? You try. Like, you're just like, we're going to have date night tonight. I'm going to make it a fun night. I'm going to make it a fun night. I'm going to do things to see, can I make people laugh? Can I make people turn their lights on? And you learn to control your own emotions and or deal with them in better ways as you decide to be a more mature person. First, we're gonna look for a passion for what we do, which I know is very esoteric, but you need to know it, right? For our company, for our industry, we look for people who are passionate about personal development, professional development and growth, personal change, self-help, people who love personal growth and challenge. We want people who have a passion for that. So we identify the passion related to our company. You have to do that too. And you have to be able to articulate it because you're gonna look for it in interviews. Then for us, because we're still a startup, we're under 40 some people, right? Our goal is we look for the ability or the history to deal with unknowns and to get stuff done. Meaning people who are adaptable, flexible, who can come in and kind of figure things out and get things done. They have an experience of either starting new things or being on projects where it was not super well defined. The company they worked for or the teams they worked with were fairly flat and self-managed. Just people who can kind of come in and figure things out and get things done. Third, we're looking for people who have ownership to any failures or struggles. One of my favorite questions to ask people when I'm interviewing one-on-one is a question like, tell me about a time when you were working on a project that you really loved and it completely fell apart. Or a project that was really important and it didn't turn out well. How did you handle it? Tell me about that. And if they describe that and all they do is talk about how everybody else screwed up and they were the savior and then they're probably not the right person. I look for people who go, you know what? This was a project we were working on. It didn't go so well. And I want them to be able to see I want them to go, I'm bummed that didn't turn out. If someone can describe a train wreck with no emotion to it, don't hire them.
So if you ask somebody, tell me about a time that you did a project and it sucked, and they're like, well, and they have no emotion, they're called a sociopath. Don't hire those. They don't do good in culture. Okay? You want to make sure that someone has feeling and emotion to something that failed in the past, that's going to have passion for what you're doing. I always tell people, one of the number one things I love to hire for, which is weird with my new team here, but I love to hire for this single quality, guilt. I love to hire for guilt. What I mean is, I love to hire people that I know if they do a bad job, they'll feel bad about it. If you will realign to the core truth of who you are, stop faking it, stop forcing it, reconnect with what your authentic passions and desires are. Reconnect to your soul, listen to the whispers of your heart, realign to the authentic style of living that you know is true for you, not doing it for other people. Make sure you fulfill those aspirations. Your being aspirations. Be the best of who you are. Do things that you're proud of. Relate with other people in the ways that you intend to. Create things that you're proud of. Make sure that you adopt that role model mindset. When you're adopting the role model mindset, you're activating your full potential because you want other people to see that. You want to do things of integrity and value in the world because you want other people to role model that themselves. You're creating the world that you want to be in by living that. You're activating your potential. You're being a role model that will connect you with purpose. You don't have to seek it. It will connect you. When you are in potential, and you are serving by being a role model and being of service to other people, not for yourself, but to be of service to other people, you are connected to purpose. Think about it. You wake up, you grab your phone, you're like, you know, and all of a sudden you don't have any motivation. Instead, you look through all this stuff and all it did is make you feel like you're not enough, or it distracted you, or it upset you, or it created, anger or anxiousness. You got to be careful how you're using cues to start your day. I use cues to start my day motivated. And those cues to start my day motivated are things like I literally wake up and I'll wake up and I'll think of things that I'm grateful for and that I want to give in life. I'll wake up and I'll think about someone I want to do something nice for or surprise today. I'll think of something I can be excited about today. I'll, as soon as possible in the morning, revisit my ambitions list, my goals list. I'll look at them. I'll not wander through the day looking at social media and then, I guess it's time to work and look at my goals. It's like my goals, in the first few minutes of the day, I'm revisiting them. And what I'm doing is when I'm looking at my goals or my agenda or my schedule, I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, okay, why do I want this? What would life be like this? How could I go get it? What should I do today to make that happen? And that motivates me. That's my list of goals, my list of ambitions, the things that can excite me. In other words, it's very intrinsic goals. It's intrinsic rewards that I'm after. I'm like, if I go do that, I will feel better. If I could have this, I'd be happier, right? It's not that I can't be happy with now, but I want to pull. Like if I can have that future pull, that's going to motivate me to go do stuff. Right? I have to literally generate that in my mind. And so when I have that connection in the morning, then my takeaway for you is connect with your ambitions every morning, very first thing in the morning. Somehow part of your morning routine, connect with your ambitions. Look at them. Why do you want them? What would you get from that? How would you feel from that? What would that generate? Why would life be more meaningful? Really connect with that ambition every single morning and you'll start to notice you feel better. The spark of motivation, which is how I anchor into being motivated each day, is ambition. All motivation begins with a desire or hunger and ambition for more, whether that's more depth or more connection or more contribution or more abundance or more wealth or more love. Like we just want more of something. And that says, I want to go get that. Like we see a fancier car, it's better than our car, I want to go get that. We see like a deeper love of relationship between two people, I say, I want that in my own life. Sometimes it's a visual cue. Something we see makes us want something, right? Not too far from here, there's a beach that I strolled on vacation, a couple years ago. And I said, I want to live here. And it was a motivation. It was a cue. I saw something, desired it, wanted it, went after it. So sometimes it's a visual, it's a cue out in the world that says, I want more of that thing. You must start training your mind now
to deal with stress. Many of you, that means it is finally time to start learning meditation. It's like you've been thinking about it, you kind of meditate once in a while, and you've thought about it, or you did that one retreat one time. I'm like, make it a daily part of your life to center yourself every single day. For some of you, centering yourself, that just means closing your eyes, thinking about who you want to be, thinking about what's important, just calming your mind down. Other people, centering is like that can be just like if you're super stressed, lay down, take a quick nap. For some of you, that can mean like the important self-talk. Some of you, that means meditation. Like for me, if I don't center myself every day, twice a day, actively, the next day I know I'm going to get short with somebody. I'm going to let anxiousness get to me. I'll get my nerves. I'll get frustrated. I'll bow out. I'll quit. It's so clear. It's like super obvious to me that the days that I don't center end up in tomorrows that are chaotic. And so I just got to make sure I take that time every day. That might mean you go take a 45-minute walk. Many of you guys know every single day I walk outside. Every day. Rain, water, snow, sleet. I don't care. I will walk 30 to 45 minutes outside every day. I don't miss, because that just being out in nature and breathing and feeling the wind on my face and the sun just calms me down, gets me grounded back into the earth and into nature. And it's like, oh, okay. Every day. So for 20 plus years, I meditate at least once a day. I think for the last 14, maybe 11 years, I've meditated twice per day. Sometimes it's only 5 minutes both sessions. Sometimes it's 10 minutes both sessions. And when I don't get that, I might take like a 30-minute nap in the afternoon. At some point, I'll sneak away. Even when I used to have a corporate job and work for somebody else, I'd go close the door in one of the rooms, one of the meeting conference rooms. I close my eyes for 20 minutes. I meditate, take a nap, lay on the floor, do whatever I have to do to recenter my mind.
Because you made it this far in a video, I want to celebrate you. Most people start and don't finish. Most people never actually follow through. Most people say they want something, but they don't ever do the work to actually get it. But you are different. You are special. Believe Nation, you made it here all the way to the end, and I love you. So as a special celebration, if you put a hashtag believe down in the comments below on this video, I will showcase you and celebrate you somewhere on the screen in a future video, because you are awesome. For 10 more amazing rules from Robin Sharma, check the video right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
I believe you're happiest not when you're watching TV. You're not happiest when you're playing with your apps. You're not happiest when you're looking for likes. You're not happiest when you're fooling around.